Shantree Kacera. I'm here from the Living Centre, just outside London, Ontario. An eco-spiritual educational centre that was established in 1983. Well, my herbalism roots go very deep because my great-grandma was a herbalist in Europe. And so when I was a teenager, I just knew this was going to be my path. So that a lot of those early questions or those early beginnings for me was more from, if you want to call it folklore or something that got passed down from, great-grandmother to my mom. And that's why I knew I wanted to live in the country. So I've been a herbalist who's been very closely connected to the land. So I'm much more of a field herbalist, a forest herbalist, and someone who's worked with growing the plants as a lover of gardening. But I also got into it from a scientific perspective, just because my early years was very curious for chemistry and for academia and knowing the nuts and bolts of herbs, of knowing their chemical constituents, knowing their herbal actions, knowing how they work, both from the modern scientific understanding plus a traditional perspective, and then becoming a herbal practitioner, working in a clinic for just over 40 years now, being a full-time practitioner. I guess when I think of the first one is people just coming out, meeting me, going on a walk and seeing the land, seeing the herbs, just hearing the basics of where I'm coming from, and empowers people just to get to know a few plants. We have 5 or 10 plants, so that's one level. The other ones, people just would say, I offer weekend workshops, like a Friday night, which includes a herb walk plus Saturday, Sunday, and that's usually a theme. And usually the theme is, be it medicine making or be it foraging for edibles or what I call nutritional herbalism. So the weekends are there for people to say, I'm really interested in this topic, or even how to grow some of the plants that come through in forest gardening. So if that's the case, then that's sort of a good getting to know each other and going into that dive. And then there's the certification, and the certification is lengthier, it's longer, and for people to do more than just a weekend, but there's a whole series they do, and some of it's online, we do Zoom calls, we do buddy system, but it's there to feel confident in one aspect of herbalism. And I offer 4 different certification courses. There is something also, which is a correspondence course, which is online, and people from anywhere around the world can learn that. And what they're really learning is more methodology and getting to know the plants from their region or from their country. And then if a person does 4 certifications, then it turns into a diploma course. And with that, there's a thesis, and there's a case study that they do on their land, or they do 100 case studies for people that they work with. So those are sort of the, if you want to call them, 4 different levels or commitments of how deep a person wants to go. Yeah, so there's many different programs we have here that can be just for like an evening herb walk or a weekend workshop or a full certification or actually a full diploma course in herbalism. And most of the work that I offer is outdoors. It's in the field. It's foraging. It's making medicines. It's plant ID. But there's a very strong component that comes in all my herbalism programs, is the energetic language of how do we know that we know? How do we know? How is the plant speaking to us? How do we know how it moves through a landscape? How it moves through our body? So it has that component. At the same time, I'm also offering some online programs as well in herbalism. So it's really engaging and encouraging people to see the plants as their teacher, not me. I might give you questions, I might give you things to ponder, but being open to be intimate with the plant, for the plant to be able to become a best friend, to become intimate with it, so that plant can communicate through its chemistry, through its through how it's going to move inside your body. It's going to make you sweat, it's going to make you perspire, it's going to make you eliminate, how it's going to affect your dreams, how it's going to affect your emotions, how it affects all of us if we're open, if we stay really curious of what is this plant, how's it moving. And I love the movement language of how herbs speak to us, and they speak through this sensation of what's happening. And then if you know that moves through you, then you know that you know. It's not something you read, it's not something that I would have taught you. It's knowing for a fact, this is what this plant did to me, how it bonded with me, and how it shifted my my state, energized me or sedated me by helping me to fall asleep or whatever. So it's really encouraging people to say, I'm really open to receive the gifts of this plant. The approach is really to become intimate with a few plants really, really well, and to get to know. There's one weekend workshop I teach. It's called the 12 Essential Dozen. If a person can learn 12 herbs really, really well, plants they can grow in their own garden, and it covers everything. Those 12 plants can cover anything and everything, every single illness known. And you choose your 12 and you go in. So my approach is to get really that these 12 become your best friends. And then next year you do another 12. And that's just an example. You can do 20 plants a year or 24. But you're going deeper and deeper and getting to know a few plants, but going in depth compared to saying, oh yeah, I learned 100 herbs in a couple weekends. But you won't know those plants very, very well. So by getting to know those plants really well is one part I think is important. But I think one of the key things I bring in is how to honor and protect the plants that are rare, endangered, and threatened. And have those plants in your garden, create a little sanctuary so you protect them and propagate them. Because some of these plants can take like 50 years to get a small patch of golden seal. And that golden seal could be used up in a matter of a year or two. And it took 50 years to grow them. So to create these, and usually, it's native plants that are rare, endangered, threatened. And the other one is that most of them, like 95% of them, need shade. Actually, probably 99%. So they need this amount of shade because they wouldn't just grow in any garden. You got to be able to create a canopy. You got to create an area in your garden where there is this beautiful woodlot feel to it. Even if it's a tiny corner of your garden, is to have those. And this momentum of how many plants we're losing is very, very fast. So there's plants that say, I'm going to use the ones that are abundant and they're just here. And I guess you could call them invasives and you can call them weeds and they just spread all over the place. But then on the other hand is all these plants that don't use them, honor them, be in awe with them, don't teach about them, but have them there and hopefully to multiply them and then gift somebody a plant that say, you too can go and plant that garden. So gradually these plants don't become less and less and less rare, endangered, and threatened. So that's a very important part. So I guess that's where the ecological part comes in, which is very strongly, and the other one is energetics. And the reason I love energetics is because you don't need a book, you don't need a teacher. It's like getting to know how to know what that plant is by tasting it and feeling its sensation of which part of the tongue is being activated, and say, oh, that's the liver, oh, that's the stomach, that's the kidney back here. By knowing that, and that's one of the books I'm working on right now, is how to get that information across. And when I started going to Costa Rica, I didn't know the plants, but I just knew how to dissect or get to know who they are. So those are two main things: the energetics and the wild.